Why did we never get that sequel? That's a good question, and perhaps we'll never know. Tenchi no Mon 2 is the sequel to the first Tenchi no Mon, obviously, or Kingdom of Paradise / Key of Heaven, as it's known in North America and Europe. But let me put forward a theory. A pain in the butt to localize. That's it. Games with long scripts are no strangers to localization, but how much did the first Tenchi no Mon game sell in English anyway? Add in some Japanese writing missions with old school Japanese cell phone inputs, which would unavoidably have required some extra work to remap into English, and you've got a game that is unenticing to bring over. That being said, the game did see a release in both Chinese and Korean, so it was certainly not an impossibility. Tenchi no Mon 2 plays quite differently from its predecessors. Gone is a traditional action RPG progression where you gradually advance the story by going farther and farther into the world that's presented to you, going from point A to point B to point C, all the way to point final boss, when you can finally claim victory. In Tenchi no Mon 2, you progress the story by taking up missions in the city's request hall, and after completing a certain number of missions, a cutscene will push the game forward. The tasks that are asked of you are mostly mundane in the first half of the game. Go find this person and give them money. Go kill 10 rabbits in the field. Go listen to what this man has to say. Go get me 5 pieces of this resource, etc, etc. If at first going about your business accomplishing these banal tasks is fun enough, they'll eventually become repetitive and worse, tedious. Towards the end of the game, some absolutely ridiculous missions will show up, such as having to kill 1,000 of certain types of enemies, which is bewilderingly overlong. Or, again, they'll ask too many types of resources, which will require you to fight the same critter over and over and over again until they drop the required item. Too many times. Thankfully, however, you don't need to clear all the quests to beat the game. Eventually, you also uncover new areas you can travel to, and progressing through the story by visiting these areas and fighting a boss, for example, will also become requirements. One other problem the game presents is its maze-like dungeon design. It's extremely easy to get lost in the game's underground canals and caverns, and playing the game without a guide is sure to give you headaches. I found some maps on Japanese websites to wander through these dungeons, and it really helped in making the game more fun to play. The game lets you play as either Ro or Shunka pretty much throughout the entire game. Shunka, however, who's an amazing dancer by the way, won't see much use outside of those dances, as her fighting abilities really aren't up to par when compared with Ro's. Ro uses Bugei scrolls the same way Shinbu did in the first game, but this time he can permanently switch between any 3 weapons: swords, spears, or claws, / fists. Chi arts are not a thing anymore. And just like before though, you can mix those Bugei scrolls in any order you want and thus change your attack patterns. For the most part, the game is relatively easy until you meet those pesky flying enemies that are almost impossible to hit. Shunka uses circular blades and she can switch up her dance moves, but you need to have them in specific order when you encounter dancing shrines. No, that's not really what they're called. To unlock their secrets through the power of dancing. Besides taking place in the same world and sharing names with the first game, Tenchi no Mon 2 is pretty much its own story. I honestly did not understand much of it beyond its broad strokes, however, as it has a lot of political games and I found it hard to understand. But basically, Ro is falsely accused of murder, and Shunka, who's from a rival family, doesn't approve of her brother's trial, so she rescues Ro and decides to stick with him. As the game progresses, they will progressively warm up to each other, and Shunka will question the world she grew in. Add in a bunch of other secondary characters which all play a vital role in the game's story, and you have quite the cocktail. The graphics are standard for the PSP and quite similar to the first game. The music is also quite nice, with varying tracks of Chinese musical influence, but maybe you'll get tired of hearing the town music after a while. The voice acting is phenomenal.
違いますわよ。あんな粗暴で無神経を絵に描いたような方、ようやく別れられて、私気分晴れ晴れですわ。なんですの？
Emotions are felt and delivery is natural. Had they ported this into English, I seriously doubt the voice actors could have done a job as good as this, especially when considering the voice acting from the first game.
That's a secret. So, did you want something? If you say you just wanted to say hi, I'm going to have to hurt you.
I really enjoyed Tenchi no Mon 2 overall, despite it driving me mad in later parts of the game because of some ridiculous missions, and despite some of it being my fault a little for being stupid and missing out on very simple clues at some points. Stuff that, had I not missed, would have made my playthrough much shorter. I had a lot of fun with the game. Every day I was looking forward to continuing my quest and finding out how things would develop. I can't recommend this game, however, if you don't have a grasp of Japanese, as those Japanese writing missions will be near impossible to complete and possibly fatal to your playthrough if you don't at least know how to write basic kana and recognize kanji to an extent, let alone understand the missions you have to accomplish to advance. But if you're ready to put in the extra work, I would say it's worth a playthrough if you're a fan of the first game. My rating for Tenchi no Mon 2 is 7 ceremonial dances out of 10. Hey! We actually made it! Holy muck!